OpenAI, Mistral, or DeepSeek are already changing everything, and they are especially changing healthcare. If you talk to any of these companies, they're going to say that one of their priority today is to change healthcare. And these tools are already used by healthcare professionals, actually. But for the sake of your data, my data on our healthcare, these tools cannot go unregulated. And this is one of the main challenges of the ecosystem today. The industry, for the authority, how do we regulate these tools? So we'll explore a few ways to certify these technologies. A few words about what we do. We created Sparta because we realized that it was really hard for healthcare entrepreneurs building software as medical devices with AI or LLMs to understand and to obtain the CE marking. So we launched Sparta about 3 years ago to address that issue, and we have helped more than 40 companies, including Withings, Axions, Pulse Life, or MS Insight. And we specialize in softwares because that's where we come from and that's our culture. A few words on the context, regulatory context on LLMs. So today, regulators and notified body will tell you that they are able to certify AI-based medical devices. But when they talk about AI-based medical devices, they actually talk about AI doing diagnosis with binary outputs. And the evaluation of these technologies are very different from certifying LLMs. These LLMs will fall more and more under the MDR definition of a medical device. They, for example, will give recommendations, medical recommendations to patients, to healthcare professionals. And in terms of certification today, in the US, no LLM has been FDA approved yet today. I know that the FDA is eager to certify these kind of technologies, but for the moment, none has been approved. And in Europe, a first LLM called Prof. Valmen has been certified, their German LLM-based technology in the neurology field. And as we mentioned, many healthcare professionals already use non-certified, non-sovereign LLMs, and they are not always reliable. So when we talk about LLM as medical devices, let's zoom on a few use cases. So first use case would be a decision support for physicians or for patients. In that case, if your LLM recommends treatment options or medication, it will most likely fall into the definition of a medical device. If we talk about an administrative assistance for clinicians, for example, it only drafts recommendation letters, discharge letters, only deals with administrative data from your patients. In that case, most likely wouldn't fall into the medical device category. When it comes to administrative assistants or co-pilots that create, for example, medical reports from patient data, in that case, it will depend. If it creates medical summary from medical information, it could be considered a new medical information, and it would be a bit borderline regulatory speaking, and could be considered medical device. If your copilot gives treatment recommendation, suggestions of treatment on your patient dashboard, in that case, yes, it would likely fall into the medical device category. Now that we saw a few examples of the use cases for LLMs, let's see what are the certification challenges for these tools. The first one is that inherently, and the potential of these tools make them really often multi-pathology tools, able to address many different specialties or to give recommendation on many different specialties. In the medical device field, it's quite hard to certify devices on multi-pathologies. The philosophy of the CE marking is to say you have one device, one targeted population, one intended use, one pathology. So you have that first challenge of CE marking a multi-pathology tool. The second one would be assessing the clinical and technical performance of your LLM. For the clinical performance, the gold standard would be doing a clinical investigation, a RCT, a randomized control trial with 2 arms or more, judging the use of your LLM in clinical settings. It's hardly conceivable, and the design of the study protocol would be hard to do because of the many use cases, many pathologies, many specialists that will use your device, and the many recommendations it can give. So it could take a lot of time and money to try and do a clinical study in the gold standard of the RCT. Another pathway that would be when clinical data is not deemed appropriate to obtain the CE marking would be to go for a 61.10 pathway if supported by your risk management and your technical performance. But in that case, you would have to compare yourself with existing devices on the market. The problem is with LLMs, as we mentioned, there's only one at the moment. And the last but not least is measuring of the technical performance. It's a challenge not only in healthcare, but for all LLM builders. How do you prove that your LLM, that the recommendation that you give, that your outputs are pertinent and robust and replicable? So the evaluation framework, today notified bodies are not going to be able to give it to you, so you are going to have to build your own framework of evaluation for the technical performance of your LLM. Concretely, how do you change your documentation to integrate the certification of an AI product? For your quality management system, you will have to use AI elements. It's true for all AI medical devices, not only LLMs. You will have to add AI policy. You will have to make sure that AI software lifecycle is monitored. You will have to implement AI risk management according to norm ISO 42001. When it comes to the technical file, it can seem a bit overwhelming adding all this type of documentations. Actually, it's more about documenting your processes and documenting your technology than really adding a lot of development to your product. And the main point will be being able to explain your product, to show reproducibility, performance and clinical validation, as we mentioned, and the risk management, very important, and post-market monitoring to show that your model isn't drifting on a specific population. We compiled a few ways to evaluate the technical performance of your LLM using guidelines, using scientific literature, using a few existing norms that talk about AI. And we think that the best way to create an evaluation framework would be to combine a few of these methods. So the first thing we have to say is that there are few standardized benchmarks that exist that will let you measure the technical performance of your LLM. There's the OpenAI Health Bench, for those of you who know, that's interesting to look into, not specifically designed on French recommendations. And other existing methods would be LLM as a judge, so using a third-party LLM to judge the performance of your technology. Using syntax-based metrics, bleu, rouge, or gleu, some words that maybe data scientists here will know, to judge the pertinence in terms of syntax output of your tool. Building human Q&A datasets, so asking specialists to create medical questions and answers and show that your technology will answer correctly to these questions. It's long. How do you build a representative data set on many specialties? So that's pertinent, but that could be long to build. And our last recommendation would be to have a RAG LLM architecture that will allow you to show where does the output of your LLM comes from and will increase your explainability. So that was the compiling of the methods. If you want to talk more about it, you can find our team at booth H25, just there. Thank you.